What's going on, everyone? Bobster1984 back again, and I'm going to do a video which is my summarisation, so to speak, of Newcastle United season so far. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to talk about how I feel, things are going, and where obviously I believe things can improve. Whether or not you agree with this is obviously another matter, but if you do, this is the whole point of doing these videos. The reason why I'm doing this today is obviously it's off the back of losing 3-0 at the weekend versus Leicester. A result that is very hard to take, and it seems to have been exactly the same way for a lot of other people, which, if I'm being brutally honest, I would expect. Today I've read that McClaren is toying with the idea of dropping Alexander Mitrovic for Saturday's game against Palace. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Mitrovic has been absolutely fantastic, but hold on. What you're doing there, from the sound of it, is you're blaming that player for some of the shortcomings that you've been responsible for. And obviously when I say you, I'm saying Steve McClaren. Now, I know in a million years he'll never ever watch this video. Why the hell would he? But this is my take on what I think is going wrong with the way he plays, the way he sets his team up. There's a lot of talking, and I've seen other people say this. There's a lot of talking from Steve McClaren, but not exactly a lot of doing it. He says, "Oh, we're up for the fight, blah blah blah." After Saturday, they'll be back in on the training pitch, and we're going to be learning from the mistakes. We've heard it all season so far, and I'm not seeing any evidence to suggest that that's actually going to happen. The biggest problem that I believe he's got so far, and I think a lot of people will back us up and agree, is playing Anita and Tiote is your main midfield. And I know we've got injuries, but hear us out. Playing them two is your main creative midfield is not going to work. The two defensive-minded midfielders, they're not going to go forward. Well, they're going to go forward, but they're not going to do anything with the fucking thing. And I think you're spending 14.5 million on Wijnaldum. You're playing him on the left, and he doesn't like playing on the left. We're talking about the Dutch Player of the Year last year for PSV, and he scored however many goals he scored last year. I believe it was 14. He scored 6 for us so far. He should be playing behind, in the centre, in the attacking midfield role in the centre. And why he's played on the left, I'll have no idea. But evidence is there to suggest that the tactics you're playing are all wrong. And I don't give a flying fuck if you say that they're fantastic on the training ground. Me, as a fan, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing any of this fantastic play that you're doing at the training ground. What I'm seeing is a bunch of players that look like they haven't got a fucking clue what they're doing. Bunch of players that, frankly, we've said it for too many times about Newcastle sides over the last few seasons. It's a side that looks like it doesn't give two shits about what's going on. And I know we've had a couple of games this season where there's been, we played all right. Obviously the point away to Man United, going down to 10 men after Mitrovic got sent off, we held our own, against Arsenal, and obviously the first half against the Macklins, but we've got now to show for it. A point away to Man United. Well, one good performance of the season, you probably would say, against Norwich, and even then we looked frail. Certain things need to change at that club. One of them, and I never thought I would say this, I think Colaccini's got to go. Whether or not he actually leaves the club, which I don't think he will, I think you've got to have another person as captain. Who that person will be, I don't know. Maybe Janmaat, maybe Wijnaldum. Siem de Jong, there's another player. Why is he not playing? I know he's obviously had his injuries, and when he has played, he doesn't look anything amazing. But You know, there's got to be a reason again why he was captain of Ajax for so long. You know, does he not do anything in training for you, Steve? Does he not tug you off like some of the other players obviously do? I mean, how the fuck? I mean, a lot of people support Toyota. I really do. And personally, anyone that's watched all my videos or previous ones or whatever, you might have just watched this as your first one, I can't stand Czech Toyota. And I don't understand this whole circus around him. You know, a lot of fans support him. I don't get it. He's scored 1 goal for Newcastle in that 4-4, and he's been getting his cock sucked regularly by everybody, and I don't know why. And I can't, and I know I'm not the only person that doesn't like him, but as soon as he gets back in the squad, it's like, oh, you can't drop Toyota. What? I'd drop him straight away. I know we've got injuries, and I know obviously injuries massively affect squads that are paper thin, and ours is quite threadbare. And I know we've got the transfer window coming up, and I know they've said they're going to spend money, but you don't want to be so far adrift when it gets to that point. You know, I'm not talking about sacking McClaren. I'm talking about changes need to be made, and what kind of changes can you make at this stage, other than get rid of the manager? I mean, I don't want this video to come across as a proper McClaren bashing video, because it's not meant to be. This is supposed to be my opinion on, you know, Newcastle have played it, you know, over a third of the season. We're 17th, we've got 10 points, we've won 2 games. One of them we shouldn't have won. You know, the Bournemouth game, but we did. And, you know, I just don't know when the next win is going to come from. You know, you've got Palace at the weekend. Palace, Alan Pardew. I mean, the bloke, you know, he was vilified by our fans, and look at the job he's done down there. I'm one of the people that doesn't like him. You know, I respected him when he had that 5. You know, we finished 5th, but he caused the majority of his own downfall, as far as I'm concerned. And he would love to beat us on Saturday. And like I say, the whole reason why I've done this is I thought to myself, hold on, thinking about dropping Mitrovic when you've got to look at the way you set your side up, man. It's wrong. It's shit. You're setting yourself up to fail by playing in midfield like that. I mean, if I can see it, I'm not the only one that can see it. You know, what do you see in that way, the way you've set your team up? How do you know, think that you process what you're looking at and think, oh, you know, these 2 defensive midfielders are going to cause some problems going forward? Why do you think Mitrovic is struggling? You know, get the ball in the box. That's the kind of player he is. That's the kind of player he wants to be. He wants to be an Alan Shearer type player. And what did Alan Shearer strive on when he was a player? Service. Creativity. It's not hard. It fucking isn't hard, like. Anyway, yeah, so obviously, you know, how do you judge Newcastle after a third of the season, other than shit? Anyway, I just wanted to put my thoughts out there. Obviously what's been said today, and obviously what's happening at the club at the minute. I just thought I'd do a video expressing my opinion, probably getting something off my chest as well, in terms of being a little bit pissed off still after Saturday. What's your thoughts? What do you think? You know, leave us some comments. You know, do you all agree with what I say? Have you got other opinions? How do you think we should line up against Palace? Like I say, leave some comments. Give the video a like, subscribe, because we'll be doing a lot of these in the future. Obviously, I would love, you know, feedback, and obviously we'll get some discussions going, and obviously we'll do these every week if we can. But something's got to change, lads. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Bob1984, and I'll see you again later.